All the team will share their stories, but the one I wanted to share is just my just the fact that this is the first ever mission trip I had been on, and even though Albert, Sophie, and Kyan had gone previously, I still had concerns, in deciding to go on the trip. Some of them, were my own personal concerns, like, what am I going to do on the team? How am I going to contribute? The other big one was I have a history of migraines, and I was really worried about food and the heat and just getting a migraine and being unable to serve, or even worse, being a burden to the team or a distraction. And then just some general concerns about missions and whether the money is really well spent. Going so far, spending the amount of money that we spend. Is it really necessary? Is that the only way, the best way to use those resources? And, all of our time, we spend a good week and all the preparation time. So I had all of those concerns. I prayed about them before deciding to go, but they weren't answered. But I still, in my heart, wanted to go, and I felt that the Lord was just kind of nudging me to go. So I went, and first 2 days proved to be very, very challenging. I had a terrible headache for 2 days straight. And yeah, it was hot, a lot of adjustment. They're very busy, lots of stuff going on. So the first day that we went up to the mountains, an hour and a half drive, was our first day in that remote village. And we had barely gotten started. We'd only visited 2 homes. Doing dispensas. After the first home, I was already feeling nauseous and having a bad headache, and I managed to make it through the second house, but really I was praying the whole time that we were sitting there in their home, praying, okay, I'm not going to vomit right here in their house, And so we finished at that house. And then I just told Peter I wasn't feeling well, so I walked back down to the village, and laying there, there's a building there on the stone floor, just trying to soak up all the coldness of the floor, and just praying that I would feel better, but at the same time having all these questions. It felt like all of my concerns were coming true, okay, should I really be here? Did I make the right decision? As I laid there, and and then Pastor Anton came and prayed. Pastor David was checking on me, but I felt so discouraged because I wasn't able to, just as I had feared, wasn't able to serve in the way that I hoped. And so then the next day. Was going to be another day in the village doing dispensas and vision clinic. That morning our devotion was from Romans 12, which is we all have different skills and giftings, and we're all part of one body that is serving the same God, and to use whatever God gives you in the way that you need to. So as I was praying through that, praying about what would I do that day, because the dispensas had not worked out the day before. He gave me peace that if I was meant to do the vision clinic, which is less physically exhausting and cooler, then it was going to be good, because that's what his will was. So I did do that, and silly me, God had a plan. And on that day, we actually were able to see more people at the vision clinic, because having an additional person doing the intake allowed more people to come through, and that was going to be our last day in the town doing vision clinic, and because of the whole team's willingness to just keep seeing whoever came, we just kept seeing them, and we saw everyone who wanted to have their eyes checked that day. So yeah, from that day, the remaining days, I felt much better, and I was so encouraged at the end of that day. And it just, really was God providing and God demonstrating, everything that we read in the Bible, to trust Him, trust His plan, And although, you know, we read it, we see it, we learn about it, sometimes you just have to experience it and to really realize, you know, it's true and to take it to heart. And so the other things about missions were really answered also, because so many people and all of the things that we did, whether it was the men's event or being out in the vision clinic, so many, and doing dispensas, you know, just the fact that we had come from so far really, I think, opened doors or opened hearts to what, you know, our presence and us being there. And so I feel like, you know, there is something in just going somewhere, you know, that's not right next door to you, that really has some impact in a way that we can't have in some other places. So that really answered my questions about missions and just, you know, all the questions I had before got answered in his time on this trip. So I was really grateful for that.
On that second vision day, we had made a hard cap of seeing only 40 patients. And the reason is because of the speed and all that stuff. Plus we had other things that we wanted to do, like an event at Carnival or children's program later on. But as it turned out, people just kept going. It's kind of like when Jesus just kept going and he's like super tired, but he's like, oh, you guys go, I'll just stay here and pray some more. But yeah, I think we saw 122. 127?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was close. 127, so it's like, oh wow, you guys saw 127. And the previous day, which was supposed to be shorter, we saw 80 something. Yeah, so it was accelerated, so thank you. Another thing that she mentioned is opening doors, us coming from so far. Now, Chanika, the way they pronounce it, is a town that is very little access, even by the government. And so they had never, pretty confident to say that they never had an event like the one that we had. And so after the event, they had so much fun. We had so much fun. They were asking us like, when are you guys coming back, right? So it was literally, we would go to homes and they would say, I can't believe you would come so far to see us, because they're kind of like forgotten people up in the mountains. So I think, yeah, like Teresa said, it was a interesting dynamic that we would come from so far actually to the exact place where nobody visits them. So, anyone?
I just want to start off by saying food is really good. One of my favorite foods is Mexican food, so it's really nice to eat like authentic Mexican food there. And also, I want to share about the hospitality there. Pastor David and his family, they were so accommodating for our needs. Like, for example, we couldn't drink the water there because it was filled with things we're not used to here. And so what they did is they filled up giant jugs of water with bottled water so we could drink. It was all just really amazing to see how accommodating they were and how kind they were. So if you're thinking about going, I recommend you should go.
Warren.
Somebody else wants to go first?
Alright. For me, on the actual, I think every year I've gone is just been good. I'm sure a little different maybe. One of the roles I feel like I have on the trip now is I like to be like a cheerleader for people that have never been before, and so that's been fun. Like last time we went, Marina was on my team. It was just fun discussing. So what I do when we go out into the village, we'll do a rotation with the adults. So like I would share the plan in the next house. You know, Louis would share, the house after that, Karen would share, and then we rotate any of the youth that are with us as well to pray or share. And so it's just fun. I don't know. I just like it. I just sit back and pray and let them go do their thing. And so I was really proud of Louis was on my squad and Karen, and they just knocked it out of the park. And like Louis said, it's not because they're great or anything, it's because God's working through them. And just learning to be good listeners, listening to people's stories, and then just sharing. And every one of us got to share something, and so that's cool. And then for me, just to see the youngsters do their thing is cool. I have Christopher, Sophie, and Jared on my team this time, and a couple of these guys.
Case and Jordan.
Yeah. Jordan and Case. And so it's just fun just to see, give them opportunities. So anybody considering missions, I think it's just a blessing. You may have never shared the gospel before in your life, and you get to do it. And it doesn't have to be the gospel, it could just be a story from your life, something God did. That's encouraging. Second thing is, we kind of alluded to too, I really like this trip just because we are working with Pastor David and his heart just to go out. And then one of the highlights for me is we got to see, so a pastor that we worked with last time, he came back and shared with us this time, and he actually was our driver. He drove the van for us, and he went out to the village as well. But it was just encouraging because we were in his village last year. I don't know if some of you were here last year. That was the place where they have the quote-unquote lobster. I don't know if that was really lobster. that village. We went there, and it was just good to hear from him. He was talking about how the church has, grown since we were there, and so just being able to, when you think of it, who are we? We're just, some church in Bellevue, Redmond, and we're all the way in Mexico, helping to be part of spreading the gospel to people that don't know Jesus yet. It doesn't get much better than that. So, yeah, that's it. Gail was phenomenal too, and her Spanish.
I have so much to share, so sorry if I ramble and meander around, but first thing I think was even being able to go was unexpected for me. And to be honest, I was not wanting to go. My kid, sorry, he's not here, but Case, he wanted to go. And I had asked, even a year ago or so, whenever we started planning, right, I had asked Peter, would it be possible if Case can go without the parents, right? And because we also have the challenge of, I only get a very limited vacation time at work, and I knew that with the family stuff that we had to do, I wasn't going to have enough vacation. So those were all the different factors. And then I think it was January already, and through some miscommunication, Peter had assumed that we weren't going, but I was expecting to be made aware when things started rolling again, because I think it was rescheduled. And then by then it was like too late, maybe too late, and then we asked about whether Case could go without me or David. David couldn't go either, and the answer was no. And then all of a sudden, out of the blue, my company changed their out of office policy, because it used to have a distinct sick time, which is a week, and a vacation time. And I couldn't say I was sick, right? So, but then all of a sudden they made that just available as just a blanket out of office. Whether you're sick or you're going somewhere, you could use it. All of a sudden I had the exact time that we need to spend in Huatulco open up. And so I thought, oh man, I think God really wants me to go. So I think that was the green light. And the church also was very gracious and allowed us to join even at a late stage. So thank you. So that's one. And then when we got there, I think for me, some of the key things, you know, I think I had, in a way, through the last several years, had sort of lost the passion for missions. I used to love going on missions. I used to serve on the missions committee at our old church in Southern California. And I think through this trip and what God showed our team, what He can accomplish through a small group of people that are just willing to go even without special skills or talents, except for Catherine, right? And maybe Anton. Just kidding, Anton. He really, I felt like he really made us see that He can use us as hands and feet of our Lord Jesus Christ. And the responses from the people, and also, you know, the Bible verse that says there's the harvest is plenty and the workers are few. I really felt that in a very tangible way in this trip, because we saw so many people that had such brokenness and sadness and loneliness and pain and suffering in their lives, and you know, they were able to share that with us, and they didn't know the Lord, and you know, we here know who the Lord is and what He could do for us, you know, both eternally and in this life. You know, it's not a magic wand that takes away all that suffering. Like in today's service message, we are going to go through suffering, but when you have the Lord, you have that hope, and then you have a different perspective of what you're going through. And so I think all of that kind of came to the surface and just really was made real to me. And so I think this trip kind of revived my passion again for ministry and mission. So, and then the third thing I do want to say, working with Pastor Lee and his family, we were able to really see a family, and I don't just mean their biological family, but the family of co-laborers in Christ who truly just pour so selflessly into the people around them. You could see the sincerity and the warmth and the love that we really feel for every single person in the 2 villages that we visited, and the way they are so generous and don't ask for anything back, they don't expect anything back. I just felt like they truly modeled what Jesus asked of us, which is to love like Him and to see with His eyes, and also I felt convicted how far I feel I live my life out from that. And so they keep telling us that we coming to them always bless them and the people there, but I truly felt equally blessed by them, by the example that they show us, and just really the humbling living example of living for Christ, wholeheartedly, and that it just tells me I need to work on myself, and you know, and the boldness to share the gospel there. It made it so simple, you know, the eternity bracelet, when it kind of distills it into that, it truly is, that is the message, and I wonder, how come we're not so bold here? It's the same message. It's the same brokenness and suffering and sadness all around us. I understand it's a different circumstance. People have different mindsets, and you know, Satan's strongholds are different in different places. But I felt encouraged that it could be that simple, and we could be that bold. So, and thank you.
You guys can ask questions too if you want. Steven has a question.
Introduce yourself. Just kidding.
What was something unexpected that you saw either in your teammates or like a new side of them, or like something that didn't go according to plan but got still used, or and it's something you shared that already, or like something that just like a unpleasantly surprised highlight kind of thing. Very broad stuff.
We can
but-
share a couple. I'll share a couple. Some others may have answers too. Something that surprised me going house to house, and I always ask the team, anybody wants to pray or share or anything like that. And then so I looked the direction of the kids. I have 5 kids that were under 14 or 14 and under in the team that we had going house to house. And my own son said, "It's not my turn." What turn? What do you mean? And so Zach went and shared the gospel. I'm like, did they kind of come prepared? Like they ordered themselves, and actually all of them shared throughout the day in some order that they have preordained. So yeah, that was surprising to me that they would make up their minds, right? That they will share, no matter who, I guess, or what, and also that they would, I guess, set an order. So that was interesting. Yeah, anybody else? I lost track of the other things that I. Oh, another thing that I was really surprised was a couple of our members, Gail, Teresa, Karen, a few others. Their Spanish is Gail's Spanish is nearly flawless, so that was interesting. Surprise.
Every 20 years.
Surprise.
See if I can share something.
He doesn't like to share, but he's like,
I was gonna say,
he's
I've only
leading the
done
league
that
in
once
sharing.
every 20 years. So first, I want to publicly acknowledge how much of a blessing Anton was. We only poke fun because we love you and we know you can take it. You are a true blessing with worship sets. Second, in terms of something that's unexpected, sometimes when we're, I think, sharing with folks during the house-to-house visits, we don't really know when we're making an impact or not. Or even when we're sharing generally with anybody, we don't really know if we're connecting with people. So on the first day, one of the houses that we visited, there was an older couple, and we were talking primarily with the husband. And the wife, didn't really say much. And she didn't have much of an expression. Like, it was almost like she didn't want us there. Like we were bothering her. So that was my own impression, right? So then later on that afternoon, during the vision clinic, I was sitting at the intake table with Anton, helping him where I could. Not as good as Teresa the next day, but I was helping where I could, and I look up, and she's sitting right in front of me. And she was sitting there for hours. And I look up, I smile, she's just staring at me like I'm thinking in my own head, oh, she's really upset. Right, so that whole afternoon I'm thinking, oh, she didn't want us there. She comes to the vision clinic and she's waiting around for 3 or 4 hours. She's just getting really super upset at us. Then the next day, I see her at the carnival, and she had a couple little girls with her. And she looked like she was just waiting around for her kids to be done. And I thought, okay, well, now we, wasted another afternoon of hers. She must really not like us. But then later on, when we were packing up, she walked up to Teresa and me, and she was waving and saying something in Spanish. So then I kind of got the gist that, oh, she's saying goodbye, right? So I walked up to her and, I reached out my hand to shake her hand goodbye, and she was talking, and then she came up and wanted to give me a hug, and so we had this awkward half handshake hug. And she's speaking in Spanish, so I grabbed Peter, like, what is she saying? And she was asking us, when are you guys coming back? So that shocked me, and it really convicted me where for the 2 days, I'm sitting there thinking to myself, what kind of impact it would make it or not making it. And little did I know that we were having an impact on her. So that was super encouraging, and then also made me think about, all the other kids and families that we visited with. And we may not see the results right then and there, but we know that God is doing His work.
I'll just share a quick
kind of story to answer Pastor Stephen's question. We were at a house sharing with this family. We were sharing with the husband, and then we assume it's the wife walks up. She just got done gathering wood, and so she drops her bundle of wood, and then out of the middle there, she pulls out a machete. We're like, all right, we have time to go. It's a sign that she doesn't want us here. Do you remember? We were like, okay. So, anyways, it was kind of funny.
I have another one.
I remember that was the house you said, oh, Louis, it's your turn.
Yeah. Wow. There was one house we went to. I think it was probably the second day, right before you got sick. And we're having a conversation with this couple, and it's going regular, normal. It goes in circles a little bit and then back to other things. And then Gail started speaking, and it surprised me she's speaking in Spanish to the person. So now I have to translate to English. And then she's sharing something about difficulties. I don't remember exactly what she was sharing. And the guy starts bawling, like starts crying. That's another surprise. But I guess you don't really have to say like the most eloquent things in the world. God is working on the people's hearts, right? So the guy was ready to accept Christ. In fact, he did accept Christ that day. And so that was interesting. Along the same theme, we went to another house. This is not necessarily a surprise. Well, it is in a sense. Went to another house, and the person had an inflamed knee from an injury. He's maybe like 35 years old. He's pretty athletic looking. Later on, I was told that he's a pretty important person in the town. But he has said to us while we were visiting him that he's been really sad the last 2 months. He hasn't left his home. Nobody has visited him in the last 2 months, and we're like, nobody, like none of your neighbors, nobody has visited him. He's hobbling around. He can't really do the work that he usually does. And he was saying that this 2 months he spent thinking, right? Generally speaking, he doesn't think about his health. He doesn't think about life or things about God or anything like that. But this last 2 months, he's been thinking, like, what's going on? Like, how can everything just fall apart like that? And so that day, we were, I think one of the team members shared about, that Jesus knocks on the door. And if we open, he will come in and dine with us. But we can always leave it shut too. So perhaps this is a way that God is knocking on your door. And it's not a coincidence that people from 500 kilometers away are here in your home, right? And so, he accepted Christ that day as well.
I think something that was, really nice to see was, just being able to see that God's presence was so, it was so intimate. What's the word? I don't know. But it was just there, and you can really feel it. One of the houses we went to on the first day, there was a woman who didn't get very many visitors. And she had 5 kids, 3 of them were mute. So they were all living there, and they seemed really confused on why we were there. But the mom she's never heard of Christ before, and she accepted. And it was really nice. And at the end, when we were praying for her, you could just see that she was just bawling, like tears were dripping on the ground, and she was just. It was just really amazing to see how God just opened up their hearts so much, and they've never even heard of. They've never met us before. They've never met the pastor that was with us. They don't get very many visitors. They've never heard of Christ, and yet they were just so welcoming, and it was just really nice to see.
Along the same lines, I'll share something that Catherine Shen wanted to share. She can't be here today. Basically, she's saying that she saw cases there that were really bad vision-wise, and so she was pretty surprised. People had negative 15 and things like that. The worst pair of glasses that we brought were negative 5, so she was able to like pair a couple of them together and help them to see. But yeah, imagine holding 2 pairs of glasses. There also, she says that the town that we went to, she feels like there was some inbreeding going on because I saw many deformities in children. So that's kind of like a little bit of what he was mentioning, where 3 children were mute, right? And most heartbreaking case was a 3-year-old girl who the mom brought her to see. The mom said she couldn't see, but in fact she had bilateral congenital cataracts. I guess she says that cataracts is pretty easy to fix, but you have to have the surgery, right? So it's kind of heartbreaking for her to not really be able to do what she thinks she can do, but not have the tools to. Anyways, she shared a lot more, but I won't go into that. Gail.
I was just reminded also how we saw God's hands really work things out, like perfectly, in many instances. One is, I remember, the carnival that we held for the town of Jamaica. We had suitcases of little stuffies and toys and all the donations that you all had sent with us for the kids, and there were just enough of them. I mean, how many kids do you think we had? Like 130?
They said 130.
And by the way, I know Peter had shared this with the team, that when Pastor David reached out to that town, again, it's very remote, and he had said that the government themselves have a hard time reaching the people. They had already sent in a governmental agency with a medical clinic of some sort in the past, and only 30 people showed up. So when Pastor David reached out, they said, sure, you can go, but we don't know if the people are going to show up. And then we don't know if the children are going to show up. And so we were thinking, well, maybe 30 to 50 kids. We'll see how many show up. But how many did we see? I think we saw 200 and something in the vision clinic, right?
237, I think.
200, yeah. And so people showed up in mass, and then the kids, instead of 30 to 50, we had 150. And like I said, the toys were just enough. It was amazing. So, and then, couple other things. The road up there was super windy. It's a new road, so they had paved a lot of it, but it was still super bumpy. And I was just thinking, man, this is really rough on the vehicle itself. And sure enough, I think one of the vans broke down, but after our service days in that town. And then, so again, God allowed us to be able to work before these things showed up. The other thing too is, as we were driving back down the mountain the second day, so it was our last day there, we saw smoke, in the distance when we were far down, and it was fire
Forest fire.
that would have prevented us from either accessing or coming back down. Again, after we had, God had allowed us to serve already in the town. What else? There were so many. Oh, yeah, you shared mother.
And then, and then the Friday, so we were done there on Wednesday, we were done there on Tuesday? Or Wednesday?
Tuesday, Wednesday.
And
Both.
there's an earthquake in Oaxaca, just happened to be centered in Shanika on the Friday after we were there.
Oh, one last thing. I don't know if you guys heard that most of the team had stomach problems after the week of service. Or maybe some started like that last day or something. But again, we were very grateful that the Lord allowed us to, be able to serve all the 4 days before anything happened like that. So we see all these things, we praise God in the midst of it. So amazing. We have an amazing God.
So I was thinking about, the whole trip. And so, originally, Christopher wanted to go. And as Gail kind of shared earlier, I said, you need to come along. So, between Debbie and I, we're actually going, I went. And to me, it's like, I'm more than happy to support us. And, I will, and Christopher knew this, and I think I shared with some other folks, like I had this huge amount of anxiety because I don't speak a lick of Spanish, Ordering from Taco Bell is not really useful. So yeah, well, obviously. That fear was just ripping me, huge amount of time. And then also, like me going on trips, like, okay, I don't know what I'm gonna do. How am I gonna serve? And the thing is, like, there's always that sense of pride. It's like, okay, I come from an engineering background. I like to think of myself as like fairly confident. And so with that usually comes a certain amount of ego. It's like, I know what to do. I know how this is gonna go and how this should be organized. And the thing is, like, I knew for me, that's also a sense of pride. And so it's like all throughout before, I kept bringing that up, okay, God, it's like, I need you to break my pride. I need you to break my ego. Because, in times past, like, I was going to things thinking like, I'm gonna be doing this, and this is my role. And God completely changes that to something so much better. And I think that's the whole thing of this trip. It's like I just tried to go in with a blank slate. And that was like really, really hard. But I think in going in, not knowing, I think it's just going to be blessed because, being able to witness and just be part of this team, everybody's role. Like people stepping up, trying just the fluent Spanish like coming out of his mouth just like blew me away. It's like, where did that come from? So, and Dale, and then other people just like serving in different ways. It was just amazing, and just to be part of that was really, really good. And I think what I was reminded throughout the whole trip was like, everything was just enough. I mean, we had just enough energy to kind of get through the day. We had just enough water, and drinks to go around. When the van broke down, because we were being transported in these 2 large cargo vans, and when that broke down, everybody squeezed into one van. Okay. And a pickup truck. So I don't know if you saw, there was like one photo where some of the high schoolers were riding the back of the pickup truck. So, of which I never told Debbie until afterwards. there's something back there. But anyway, so there's just enough transportation to get us there, and we have just enough help. Until the very end, when we have stomach issues, everything is just enough. And that's the thing, it's like, to me, it's like everything works. We have just enough people to handle the vision clinic, just enough people to carry all the dispensers, just enough dispensers to reach all the right houses that we were supposed to. And that was, a really cool thing that I saw just coming out of this trip.
And also just enough manpower to change the two for one dead battery when we got back to Vancouver.
Yes.
I have a question. How did the intergenerational team, with the young people and the older people, connect with the people out there? Did, like, for example, did older people connect better with the younger generation at the carnivals or anything like that? Any good examples or stories of how the mix here, which is awesome, can help with connect with the people up in Oaxaca?
I can answer. So intergenerational, this team definitely intergenerational. We had half of the team, 9 exactly under 18, and 9 exactly over 18, just barely. And I think that it is not just the town of Sanica where the intergenerational comes into play, but also at the school, right? At the school, obviously, it's very obvious because we are ministering to school kids. We also had a chance to help in the English class, right? And so the mandate was for them to find a person that looks like they're English speakers and do the assignment with them, right? So they would scatter around, sometimes get an older person, sometimes get like 3 would crowd a younger person. I don't know why, but that's their preference. And so it was used in that sense. Carnivals, young kids were really, really important there in being able to just play with other kids as well. But we also have like so many angles to a trip with such deep cultural background as well. When you go into a home, generally speaking, in some cultures, in the Mexican culture as well, it is a little bit better for the women to address the women, for the men to address the men. So we had those type of dynamics to consider. So we formed teams with certain women in certain teams and certain men in certain teams and stuff like that, with that in mind as well. And so, intergenerational was very important because of all the things that we did, right? School as well as carnivals, as well as men's program. And one of the things, this is an aside, one of the things that really struck me this year, first, the team was really flexible. This year, more than previous years, the schedule just changed entirely, right? So our first day we were supposed to do a drama. We didn't do the drama. We switched gears. We were supposed to be families. Instead, it was men. And the event that we were going to have for families changed to a men's event as well, which means that the things that we have prepared for had to be thrown away. And it's the team mostly said, "Oh, it's good. It's fine. Let's go with it," right? So it's like, "Oh, that's good." And that's one of the things that Pastor David was commenting, that he really likes about this particular team from Cornerstone that goes. I tell him that we don't try to dictate what we will do. We'll just let him tell us what we will do. And so when he asked me, he's like, "Hey, that's what you need. That's what we'll do." And so this year they showed how intentional they are in the Oaxaca side, right? So sometimes we think, oh, we're just going to a random place. It is not random. In fact, we met a person named Amy, would probably like to hear this, in Martin. 2019, we went to a place in Oaxaca somewhere, Mira's Church, the kids were rapping. I don't know if you remember that. We held a carnival there. Well, fast forward 4 years, we met Desi during the trip, and he told us that there is a thriving church that was actually planted right there when we did the thing. And that's what we set out to do at the beginning. In the same way, Pastor David is also thinking about all these things, right? We went to Shanika, and it's because 7 kilometers away, there's a pastor that from Huatulco that set up a house church 7 kilometers away. He doesn't really go up because it's harder to go up, but now that the roads are finished, they're thinking of going up and setting up a house church over there. In fact, they already have the land, and we were able to pray for the land as well. Another story, sorry I keep going on this, but when we were praying for the land, there are people that are working on the land, and one of them was this house that we visited. There was this woman, and the person had told me, like, this one's gonna be pretty easy because she's really close. And the person was telling me from the town that was our guide, that she is one of the people that are not Christian, but she's helping on the field where we will set up the house church. And so she is there when they're praying, and then she's there for all these things. So she's pretty close. When we entered this house, the lady, short conversation, she's like, I want to believe, I want to be led to Christ, all these things. And we're like, oh, so we started explaining, the gospel and stuff like that. And she was one of the ones that accepted Christ, and she was crying while she was being prayed over. But yeah, that was an easy one. Anyways, that was an aside. Go ahead.
Question. So, what now? How will you use your experience to apply that to your life or to your faith?
How will you use the experience to apply that to your life or your faith? Anton.
Maybe I'll become a pastor now. I think it's kind of a uniform thing that every year we go. A lot of the same type of activities, ministries are there, whether it's going house to house, doing some kind of clinic, doing children's program. But the one takeaway that I think can be safely shared amongst most folks on the team, especially for our younger folks, is this sense of just when you get the heart of the people in Mexico, you understand on your first glance, and you guys saw through the videos and the sharing and so forth, they don't have much, right? The conditions they live in, we find ourselves having to accommodate, right? Like, no, can't drink the water. Toilet situation is not exactly the same. I know we just ate, so I'm not going to be graphic, but you can't flush TP down the toilet, and that's a big thing. That's something that you and I never think about during the day, because we just do what we do. It's made very clear from day one that that's something you cannot do, and you have to work with how culture is down there. Houses that we would visit sometimes just contain a sheet of tin or aluminum over their for the construction. It's not like fine brick or wood or whatever we've got here. Gail mentioned roads unpaved, bumpy, hilly. Some people have to walk those for miles. We even had a gentleman that came to our clinic that walked 2 hours just to the clinic, whereas you and I, we can drive to go see our eye doctor in 20 minutes, right? Just a lot of the things that we often take for granted because we don't think about it. That's how life is for us in the U.S. That is not how life is in a great part of Oaxaca, and frankly, a lot of parts of the world do not live the same way we do, and we are just afforded many blessings, as ironically as we're talking about blessings in today's service. And so my heart is always refreshed. It is always renewed. It is always reminded by how much our Lord does meet us and provide for a lot of these simple things. Whereas if you and I have, you know, acuity issues with our vision, whether I'm farsighted, I'm nearsighted, let's go see the eye doctor and get it taken care of. Make an appointment, no big deal, insurance will cover it. These folks, as mentioned, right, this is the first time they had a clinic that went in there that had glasses, that had drops available for them, and they were willing to wait hours. I mean, no joke, some folks waited 5 or 6 hours just to see us with a hope that there would be even a pair of lenses that would come close to matching what they were at. And even Catherine, right, she said that we had nothing beyond the -5. But these are things that, again, we are, I think we just need to be reminded of that the Lord has been really, really good to us in this way. And I think it's on us too, as His hands and feet, to be able to share that, to be able to be generous of that, to be able to show compassion on others who don't have these types of things that we take for granted. And I'm not saying any of this stuff to guilt anybody. I'm just saying this was something that just really sticks in my heart each and every time I go. And I think it does for a lot of other folks. And the thing I wanted to add to that too is this is the first year, like Peter said, we've done this is our 7th year. This is the first year that my family got to go, my whole family. I'm super excited about that. Kate went with me last year, but Karen had done prior mission trips before, but never with Cornerstone. And this guy's first mission trip ever, right? And I handed it to Jordan, he's the youngest one on our team, at 11 years old, and you know, he wasn't really sure what he's doing. The last time we went to Mexico was on a cruise ship, so it's like, the experience is going to be a little different. But he did well, right? And he just came with a heart to serve, and I love that the kids, you know, these guys right here, there wasn't complaining, right? There wasn't like, oh man, how come we have to do this, or you know, all that kind of stuff. We, you know, in this country, we do a lot of complaining sometimes when we don't have things done our way, right away, you know, and then you're just like totally reminded that, man, that's not how the world is. And those people were just so overjoyed just to be able to see us. Like the reception that the lady gave to Louie, just with a heart, and that wasn't unique to her. And so, how humbling it is for us to be able to be used by the Lord in this kind of a situation.
Yeah, I was curious. Last year, it seemed as though the school itself, Pastor David and Sandra wanted to add more students.
Yes.
Were they able to do that? Were there accommodations for that, or
yeah, that's a good question. So they've expanded as much as they can in terms of enrollment. The space itself is pretty much maxed out, and in fact, it's ridiculous that they had to fit into this one building, and so the only way that you're going to get more students in there is extending the hours. And so how it works is their K through 5 essentially has school in the morning, and they go up until about 2 o'clock. And then the middle school and high schoolers that go there, they start school at about 2 o'clock, and they go till past dinner time, right? So if you can imagine how long of a day too that is for them, staff, but that is the only way they're able to accommodate the growing number of people that want to go to this church, and they're waitlisted. I was asking Pastor to be like, what's going on? Is that, we've got a list of people that want to come, because they know the reputation that the word is getting out that David and Sandra, the Cornerstone School, that's what it's called, by the way, if you didn't know, it's called Cornerstone. It's such a blessing to the people there that everybody wants to go there, but they don't have the physical space for that, and they're limited, so they stretch out their days to accommodate.
I can give more.
Oh, and then I wanted to follow up though. And what about their land that they had?
So they opened up a high school class this year, and generally speaking, their classrooms only take 15. But since they're doing it in the afternoon, they had a long list of people. They're like, we'll just take everybody. So their class is 25 people, 2 teachers, and so one class with 15, the other class with 10. And the problem though is that this year they tried it one year in the afternoon, and the parents are complaining they're gonna pull their kids out because they can't do the afternoon. So one thing they're looking into is to rent another place, which will put them behind financially quite a bit if they're able to do that. So yeah, they're weighing different things, but staying in the afternoon is not as much of an option going forward. So in terms of the land is there. The land unfortunately doesn't do anything for them unless they have a way to build on it. And so in order to build on it, they need to lay the groundwork for it, and it takes about $35,000 US. For them, it's a fortune that they trying to save like 6,000 a month. 6,000 pesos a month, not dollars, is about $300 US a month. So it's gonna take them quite a while to even get to anywhere. Yeah, so that's the predicament they're in. So it's nice that they have a piece of land, but it's almost like having a cow but no bull, right? You just have half of what you need and no way to like multiply it. So yeah, that's where we are. Good questions. It's getting later in the day. Any last couple people to share? Any questions?
This is for the kids, your chance to tell adults what to do. How would you complete this sentence? You should go because.
So to the kids, you should go because. You can start. Let's go down this way.
I would say you should go because, well, I don't know. I think a lot of the fears that we put against going to a foreign country with there's like a language barrier, social barrier, everything. Like I think if that's one of your biggest worries, then you don't need to worry about that because it's pretty much like God takes care of it all. And then I think it also does a lot on your perspective. At least it did for me. And it kind of really makes me think about, I guess, what I want to do with my life and if I really want to live it with the world instead. And when I went to Oaxaca, it all kind of changed.
Let me, I forgot Sophie. We'll go that way later.
You should go because it's a great way to build relationships and friendships, not just with like the people you're going with, but also people there, and really it just helps you to have a deeper understanding of how far God's love goes before going, especially, this is my second year, so going last year and this year, it's just really emphasized like God's love goes so far, I can't explain that the lives people are living over there are so different from here, and I have to take it for granted that I grew up in the church and that I grew up in a loving family, and so for them to be in such devastating scenarios but still seek God and still choose to have such an unexplainable hope is really cool to see. And also like during dispensas, a lot of the things that they're so vulnerable about, I could sympathize with, but for my lack of experience, I couldn't offer any tangible support, unlike the adults that were on the team, and so it was really cool to see and hear all the stories that the adults had, of how their struggles in the past and how they are all redeemed, and then now that they have these such timely, relevant stories, it's really cool of how that God kind of like full circled that, I guess. Yeah.
You should go for only one word: food. I mean, when you go like anywhere, you have to worry about where you're gonna eat, when. But here, they serve you 24/7. Breakfast, lunch, dinner, even drinks. It's all really good. Even though some of us got sick from the food, I think it's worth it.
I think you should go because it's a really great way to build memories with people you know and also build a relationship with God.
I think it's a good way to learn how to share, not just with your words.
I think you should go because it's fun, and if you've never gone, you can try something new.
Any last ones? Last questions? Oh, there's a question over there.
How do you guys use the toilet over there?
How do we utilize the toilet over there?
Digging a hole? Or?
No. So there is the option of digging a hole, but I wouldn't go that way. So fortunately, so there are two things, right? One is where we stay, and one is where we went. Where we went is Shanika, and you just pray you don't get sick. You just pray you don't have to go to the restroom for anything meaningful. So that is a dig a hole scenario, right? But where we stay, we're staying in a hotel. So it's not a 5-star hotel. It's like 3.5. No, it's probably like, I don't know. In formations, it's probably 3-star. And it has a running water and it has a toilet. Now, the only thing is that the toilet pressure, the water pressure is not strong, and so they would say do not flush the toilet paper down. Now, in the past, I have flushed the toilet paper and it's completely fine. So, but it is a risk. It is a risk, right? It is a risk. Hopefully that helps to understand. All right, so in the interest of time, unless there's like a last one, this year was a really great trip. Like every year, every year I do have my concerns. This year's all the concerns didn't really happen until, like Gail said, until we didn't need them anymore. So I guess when you guys stopped praying, everything just fell apart. Right? From our stomachs to our cars, everything. So next year we're gonna keep people praying all the way, right? All the way to like the week after. So no, it's true. If we had stomach aches on the Shanika day, we would be really, prayer. Oh boy, that would be tough. And so that we had our stomach issues after, it's a huge blessing. And our car issues, mine inexplicably wasn't starting, so I don't know, the battery was just dead. And Winthrop's was also, so it was 2 cars actually, was also his was able to be restarted after 3 hours of jumping it. But for it to be just a mere inconvenience is actually a big praise. Because I was supposed to drive back the same day, the same night. I was supposed to drive Gail, who had some tournament, Case had a tournament to go to. And we weren't able to, right? 3 a.m. we're still working on the car. It's like, forget it, we're not going to Seattle, even if it turns on, right? So we stayed overnight and we were able to change the whole battery. But, imagine had this happened like before, somewhere in the middle of the road somewhere. So God protected us. And so, but lesson learned. Pray even when the trip ends, just keep praying that nothing happens, because Satan has a way to work. This year, things that stick out, the schedule changed a lot on us. So Flexico was actually especially important. But even though the schedule changed on us, I think whatever happened was like as good as it gets. This year, we also didn't have much time to practice. As you can see, only half the team, maybe 3/4 of the team is here. That's because other people have different events to go to, right? And every week we just couldn't really have the whole team together. We practiced the skit one time through and through with everybody there. I think that may have been, maybe once or twice, that's it. But the day of, the skit went just perfect, as I expected. And I just have this feeling every year, like it doesn't matter, it's gonna turn out fine, right? We've seen it so many times already. It's gonna turn out fine, and it turned out fine. The men's thing was a little bit scarier. Like switching gears. Oh, really? Okay. But we had a panel, asked 5 questions, and it couldn't have been nailed better than how it was. Right? It was perfectly answered to what Pastor David had told me were their needs for that town. And so I think it just worked out extremely well. So flexibility of the team is something that sticks in my mind. And there were 2 words, right, that we emphasized. One is to go, availability, and faith, right? So Pastor David talked about it quite a bit as well. The 2 words, faith and going. Right? I think that if we are available, God will use you. Right? If we make ourselves available, whatever the skills, I think God will just work, and God will save His people through an available person. So that's really, that's really like how we can summarize this trip. Just people that were available, and God worked through us. So thank you to the team for bearing with all the stuff, all the meetings that we have and stuff like that. Thank you for the supporters. Next year, just keep praying more, right? And so thank you, everybody. Do you see that like arroz con pollo thing? We actually